They went. I'm here with John Jekovich, decorated World War II veteran, frontline in combat, shot up twice, still have shrapnel in them. And it's May 15th, 2024, in the year of the Lord. And we're going to continue on this chapter 16, civilian life once again.
The what?
We're going to continue on with John Jekovich's book, Their Mother's Son, with civilian life once again. However, before we do that, we're going to present John Jekovich with his military arms manual and see if you can recognize any of these weapons in here. Oh, before that, your dog tag number. Your dog tag number.
420929.
Okay. Now you just take your time, you browse through that book, and you tell me if you recognize any of these weapons or if you have used any of these weapons.
That one.
Just take your time, browse through it. Check the mail. Jen, help her in.
We got a chair for you over here.
Hi, Claire.
Hi, Jen.
We reserved a chair for you.
Right here, honey. Right here.
Hi, Claire.
Hi, Claire.
You're looking well today.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. We're gonna, before I start reading the book, Mr. Jekovich is going through the weapons and see if he recognizes any of those from the war when he was on the front lines in the Battle of the Bulge.
Is he coming across some that were familiar?
We just started. So far, there's no comments. He has no comments to me yet. Give Claire a candy. Give Claire a candy. They're good.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Do you recognize any of those weapons, Mr. Jekovich?
No.
Well,
Claire,
keep
you
going.
want some nuts? Claire, would you like some nuts?
Just shout when you recognize something. Right, that's fine, thank you. Okay. And once Mr. Jakovich is done looking over the book, we're going to pick up on the reading on chapter 16, civilian life once again. And I will just start reading a couple pages. And Mr. Jakovich, and if you see any of the weapons that you used, please stop me and let's point them out and we'll post them. Here we go. Chapter 16, civilian life once again. We watched the advancing riflemen as they came within our effective range of fire, and then we lifted our firing when they came to that line. As they entered the town, we picked a suitable spot for the gun. A small arms firing coming from a mine factory was knocked out by the airstrike. Other strong points in the town were reduced by a direct hit from tank destroyers. Patrols dispatched down the road failed to find the enemy. We found a warm farmhouse and settled down for the night. I set up the proverbial guard roster with 2 men on the gun in the bunker near the house. The rest of the squad were inside the warm house, resting, shaving, and eating what K-rations they had left. I did not expect the kitchen to come up, nor did I expect to see Post. None of us had blankets or shelter halves, and we used what we could find in the house. The next morning, at 700 hours, we continued the attack, making slow advances in the southwest against the stubborn resistance and over a difficult hilly terrain. On the right, the 289th Infantry cleared the several towns and villages. The new replacements were doing an admirable job considering the short time they were in combat. Mullaholler was learning fast and was dependable and cool under strife. I kept him close watch on him as I did not want anything to happen to him. The 291st Infantry advanced slowly against the stubborn resistance, taking Pershingback and Mezzenhausen. Was learning fast and dependable. After clearing Mezzenhausen, we stayed in a solid brick house, a doctor's house, as there was a small operating room and a dispensary located in the rear of the house. It was here that we heard of the death of President Roosevelt. When you were in that house, is that when you heard of the death of President Roosevelt? You said you heard of the death of President Roosevelt. President Roosevelt, you said you heard of the death. You were in active combat then.
Yeah. Everything was half-mast that day.
Okay, and then the vice president took over?
Yeah.
Do you remember who that vice president was?
Wallace.
Okay. We all knew that the war in Europe was finally winding down, and none of us wanted to do anything foolish or to be exposed to some outlandish danger at this point. We ordered to clear the town of Westhofen, west of Mezzenhausen. We are attached to G Company. We are told to the squad to take it easy and not to rush into anything without first reconnecting the area. No town at this point was worth your life or the life of your buddy. We all wanted to get home safely and in one piece. It was too late to be thinking of doing something heroic or dauntless. So far, Jenny, weapons look familiar?
What?
So far, any weapons look familiar?
No, these all look familiar.
You interject once you find a weapon.
Huh?
Once you find one that looks familiar, you interrupt me. G Company ran into some snipers outskirts of town, but they too were playing it safe. They waited for a couple Shermans to clean out the snipers, and then they would move in behind them. They also found some mines in the vicinity that they had suffered several casualties before the engineers cleared them. We lay back and did not even fire our crew weapon, with the exception of a few snipers and mines. As it was walk-in, by 23:50 hours, the town of Westford was secure, and we ordered to the regimental assembly area in the vicinity of Waltrip. On 15 April, movement to the division assembly area near Brownbauer was initiated, and the 291st Infantry closed on the 17th of April. For all intents and purposes, the war in Europe was over, and we felt a great sense of relief, thinking the way we come through it with the greatest ordeals, through the greatest ordeals of our young lives. Muller Haller was overcome by joy and relief, knowing that he would be going home shortly and would see his family once again. Pasorti already making his wedding plans, and well had invitations to the wedding. And we all had invitations to the wedding. Maxie and Brown were not saying much, and I believe they were rather disappointed that it all ended too soon. Why would Maxie and Brown want the war to continue? Do you remember people you worked with named Maxie and Brown?
Who?
Maxie and Brown?
Yeah.
You said in here, Maxie and Brown were not saying much, and I believe they were rather disappointed, and they did not want the war to end. Did they like being in the war, Maxie and Brown?
Yeah.
They were looking.
Huh?
They were looking for a great adventure and a romantic appeal
Oh,
that they
yeah.
imagined was ahead of them. Maxie, I believe, felt a little as I did that he did not have much to go home to, and would prefer to let some of the higher being guide his destiny. The move to Brauhaver was primarily for rest and rehabilitation, and then a few days taken over the security and the military government duties of Westphalian, a town a short distance from Braunbauer. We were told to pull occupation duty for the next few weeks. It was only a matter of time before the entire division disbanded, so many people were put into the processing circuit and rotated to stateside. Some, like my squad and the platoon, being newer replacements, would be pulled out and assigned further into the Germany, staying a year or longer as occupational troops. As for me, my rotation points were still in mid-range. Due to being rotated in the next 3 months, I would spend probably 3 or 4 weeks here and then leave the division to start my trek homeward. I enjoyed my final stay with the division in Westphalia, mostly for the rapport we had developed in the squad, and not from any great attachment for the division itself. The division had not been what I expected, and I was greatly delusioned from the very beginning with its departure of the entire cadre prior to going overseas. And then, when we did arrive in the theater, leadership was lacking all the way from the commanding general to the lowly non-com. This would continue throughout our combat duties and was basically why we were shunted to mediocre assignments, never really attaining our potential as a combat unit. We would never achieve the notoriety of some of the more distinguishable divisions, yet we suffered as many losses as they sustained, but we were given the due notice that was given to them. We were not given the due notice that was given to them. We were a ragtag outfit used for only special tasks and then shunted to obscurity into the next time. I was
What are you doing?
I was finding the page. I was reverted to a squad leader. Minus the stripes. Here you go, you didn't get your stripes again. It's about the 7th time you mentioned in this book about your stripes. Someone's sleeping on the jobs because you should have had your stripes. And then some replacement tech sergeant took over the platoon. I was not resentful. I had gotten through the war with all my limbs and had my experience made wonderful events. Now it was time to move on. Our occupational duty consisted mostly of Jeep patrols over the designated occupied territory. What would you do on these Jeep patrols?
Jeep patrol?
Yeah, what would you do on these Jeep patrols?
We covered 150 miles.
This is when the war was winding down.
We're looking for isolated AWOL soldiers. We're looking for areas of excitement, and that's it.
How about, did you find any AWOLs?
Anyway?
Did you find any AWOL soldiers?
No. But they were in front of them. When they see us coming, they put them at a bar or some damn thing.
Did you find any Germans that still thought the war was going on?
That deserted?
No, did you find any German soldiers that still thought the war was going on?
They did what?
Did you find any German soldiers, basically after the war ended, the German soldiers, some of them still thought the war was still on?
Yeah, they were still hiding.
I'll be damned.
They were still in their foxholes.
We would ride around in a Jeep, 2 men and a driver, and go through several towns and
I don't
villages.
remember any of these guns. These are all foreign.
What was your comments?
Huh?
What was your comments?
I said these are all foreign.
Nothing you used.
I don't remember any of these.
Nothing. Well, maybe towards the end of the book. We would ride around in a Jeep, 2 men and a driver, go through several towns and villages, looking for German soldiers who might be hiding out after the war was over. It was an enjoyable experience as compared to what we were doing up to this point. The entire patrol would take about 2 hours and cover approximately 25 to 30 miles. Post was usually the driver, and Tuttle and Mulholland would accompany us.
Mollenhauer, huh? Mollenhauer was a farmer.
Was he a good soldier?
Huh?
Was he a
Oh,
good,
yeah. Real serious guy.
He made it through the war, right?
Huh?
He made it through the war, right?
I don't know. He left us.
We were still, excuse me, we were still in a state of euphoria at the thought of the war being over.
Yeah.
I still could not believe it, and for the first several days I expected to be ordered back on the line for another attack. At night it was a sheer joy and delight not to be looking forward to a patrol, or at least a roadblock, or not to be awakened in the middle of the night. Among the many things we had to get used to all over again was the fact that we're getting 3 hot meals a day and eating in a company mess hall, which was a former Gestapo training camp.
Now, what was that?
So as the war was winding down, the Americans took over a former Gestapo training camp, and that's where you were eating your 3 meals a day.
Eating?
Yeah, the former Gestapo training camp, the American soldiers took over, and they turned into a mess hall.
Oh, yeah, it's probably a pretty good mess hall then.
You said you were getting 3 hot meals a day.
Yeah.
The kitchen was set up in a former kitchen, and we ate regular china and dishes and ordered coffee from earthen mugs instead of canteen cups. One other item was a regular shower facilities. The engineer had set up several showers in the building adjacent to our barracks, where we could shower at our leisure. Also, new clothing allotments were issued, and as the weather became warmer, we shed our field jackets for just OD shirts and trousers. Socks no longer were a problem, as each man was issued 6 new pairs. 6 new pairs. Our cleaning problems were taken care of by local civilians who did a great job, and we were paid by us in the form of candy, cigarettes, and sometimes extra food from the mess hall. Gradually, life was returning to a more normal pace, peaceful and tranquil. but it would still be some time before we could erase the many hardships we endured. They seemed trifling at the time, but now when we look back at them, I wondered how we even struggled through them. I had done and experienced many things I would never have thought I was capable or expected to do. I accepted them with the sense that it was my duty to my country and my moral obligation to fight what was right. At night, I would be lying on my cot. I would revert back to the days at Haverford West when I would sit on the bench with Jean overlooking the town. The hear of thunder of Spitfires and bombing flyers overhead. I can still remember how it sent a chill down my back and a sickening feeling in the pit of my stomach. The powerful engines were transporting death and destruction to thousands of people, and I'd soon be a part of that scenario, offering my minute minute contribution.
You what?
Still be part of that scenario, offering my minute contribution. Combat was like nothing I expected or imagined. I thought it would be one continuous fight until you'd be either killed or wounded. Instead, some of it was dull, monotonous, drudging through the snow until your feet felt like lead weights. It was the endless, sleepless nights, wondering if you ever would see another dawn. It was seeing people you live with on a daily basis with their guts blown away and their arms and legs severed from their bodies. It was always wondering if you would be next. And most of all, how would you get it? Short and quick, or linger and suffer
French soldiers.
only to expire eventually. What'd you say?
French soldiers.
Okay.
I don't remember any of these silly guns.
Well, keep looking. It was waking up in the morning after being on patrol duty all night and being told you were on attack that morning. The empty feelings in your stomach would increase, and you tried not to show that you were scared out of your wits. The sound of 88 shells screamed overhead and landed nearby, throwing their sharp metal objects in every direction. You could almost feel once the sharp, jagged projectiles tearing into the flesh of your body, hoping that it would be quick and the pain would not last long. It was knowing that if you survived today, by some miracle, there was always tomorrow, and you would do the same thing all over again. It was like a dream. In a dream, you had no control of your destiny. This was the way combat was, waiting for the enemy, hearing them come, and the rest in and out of your control. Did you have any comments on the book so far?
Huh?
Did you have any comments on the book so far? Any comments on that weapons book?
No, it's all cut and dry.
Okay. The only weapon you really have is yourself. And to survive war, you must be warlike to know what it means to kill someone and have his blood on your hands. A 19 or 20-year-old in combat environment could legally experience something he would never be able to duplicate. And in experiencing that, he would never be the same again for it. For to be shot at and to have shot someone, to have been hunted and hunted someone, to have been hated and have hated, you have known almost every emotion experienced by man and lived about. Hey, good night. You going? What's that, Jen?
He's there tonight.
Oh, now you could. Okay.
I'm out of here.
Okay. Take care, Claire.
Who's calling her?
Good night, Claire.
Good night, Claire.
Watch out for the wires, Claire. Okay, we'll see you later, Claire. One, two, three. Good night, Claire.
Good night, Claire.
For to be shot and have shot somebody. To have been hunted and hunted someone. To have been hated and have hated. And you have known almost every emotion experienced by man and lived to talk about it. From a high of an upcoming engagement to the mourning of a fallen comrade, you have lived through the spectrum of emotion, and you finally realize that the closer you come to death, the more you appreciate life. What a great statement that is.
Huh?
What a great statement you put
Read
there.
it to him again. He didn't hear it.
Let me read this to you again. And this is a good paragraph you put here. You ready for this paragraph you put in here?
What?
I'm going to read you one of the better paragraphs you put in the book. Here we go. Without looking at the weapons book. For, this is one of the better paragraphs you put in this book. For to be shot at and have shot someone, to have been hunted and hunted someone, to have been hated and have hated, you have known almost every emotion experienced by man and lived to talk about it. From a high of an upcoming engagement to the mourning of a fallen comrade, you have lived through the spectrum of emotion and finally realized that the closer you come to death, the more you appreciated life. That was one of your better parts of the book. This is one more instilling process in the combat environment, and that is brotherhood, how you feel about one another. It is a community that is intertwined, brothers in arms, that one purpose and one purpose alone. To not let one another down and do the job of your best ability. It is taken akin to a familiar relationship, the certainty you depend on one another to survive, and that the buddy may save your life at any time. You remember all the little things, am I live?
Yeah.
You remember all the little things you've done in a combat area. Looking at someone's K rations, getting someone extra dry socks, or pulling someone behind a rock when he was your buddy wounded to keep him out of the line of fire. I miss this the most of all, for as the years went by and the memories of the wars gradually faded, and the one astounding attribute that endured was the kinship to the brotherhood, the subversiveness to one another, and all seeking desire to be of one. Renee had this great ability to serve others without reward or concession. It was never evident in my earlier life, and so impressed me as I came in contact with it in combat. Seeing it manifested under the most trying and formidable circumstances. I recall the placard I've seen on the desk of a Ranger colonel one night while waiting to go on patrol. It read, "War is hours of boredom and minutes of sheer hell." We were getting to know people, Westphalia and the surrounding countryside quite well. It came to no great revelation that even though we were still considered the enemy, they were no different basically from the people at Haverford West or Owensboro, Kentucky.
Wow.
They would wash and press our uniforms with great pride and energy, always accepting cheerfully whatever we decide to pay them, be it food, candy, cigarettes.
Now who's this?
The military soldiers, the townspeople, after the war is over, would graciously wash their uniforms and things, and they would pay them with food, candy, cigarettes, or a bit of an extra American change.